Hi everyone. Although that may be being slightly presumptuous because I've no idea whether anyone's ever going to have a look at these videos, but never mind, I'm going to record them anyway. Well, this video is about Gibson guitars. Now, anyone who's into guitars will know that in the last, let's say, 5 years, Gibson has been in a steady decline with their quality control. Their finished products really do not befit a company of that kind of stature and standard and history. You know, their finished product, just for a guitar that costs as much money as it does. I mean, a standard Les Paul standard in the UK is roughly £2,200. That is a shitload of money. Now, for that amount of money, you're expecting a quality product. You're expecting that quality product to have no flaws, no blemishes, no playability issues. You're expecting basically jewellery in the shape of a guitar. But in recent times, Gibson has become a laughingstock, an absolute laughingstock, hasn't it? You know, people have been, it's been all over the internet, hasn't it? You've seen endless videos of, you know, people displaying what they've managed to purchase. You know, the expectation and the actuality of what you've gotten, they just don't match. You expect something fantastic, you're hoping for something fantastic. All of your guitar heroes, all of those great songs that you love, you know, so many of them played on a Gibson Les Paul. You save up, you know, you get that Les Paul standard. It tends to be the standard that most people aspire to, because, you know, to go any higher than a standard, like a custom shop, you're talking crazy money. You're talking £3,500 starting. So you've paid your 2,200 ish, and it's not what you expected. It's damaged. It's blemished. It doesn't play as nice. It's got sharp frets. It's got rough frets. It's got dinks on the body. You know, there are Chinese made, sometimes copies of Les Pauls, Gibson Les Pauls, sometimes the licensed Epiphone equivalent, and I've had many of them in my time as well, that are absolutely fantastic build quality, absolutely fantastic, cannot be flawed. I know Epiphone have got a reputation. People ridicule Epiphone as being some crappy Chinese company, and believe me, they are not anymore. They really are great guitars, and you will be getting, you know, if you're buying a Les Paul, you'll get a Les Paul at the top of their Les Paul range. It costs around about £500 to £600, which is, as we know, a fraction of the cost of an American-made Gibson Les Paul, and you'll be getting something that is fantastic, absolutely fantastic. They are really making an effort with the quality control, and it's working. They are kicking Gibson's ass, seriously. But as we know, it's all about the name on the headstock, isn't it? And the shape of the headstock. You know, it's a make, it's a brand. Epiphone is never going to be Gibson in people's eyes, you know, and I can understand that, of course. I've had more than my fair share of Gibson Les Pauls and Epiphone Les Pauls. I mean, I've had, let me see, 2 Gibson Les Paul Studios. I've had a Gibson Les Paul Standard, and I've had a Gibson Les Paul Traditional. I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with the Les Pauls. Is that, you know, I aspire to have them. I want them so much. I love the way they look. Love the way they sound. But for me, being an at-home guitarist, I don't go on stage with the guitar slung around my neck on a strap. I'm the kind of bloke who, you know, sits at home noodling on the sofa. And for me, a Les Paul is a very uncomfortable guitar to play on your lap because it's so arse heavy. It's got the exact opposite problem that the Gibson SG has got. The SG neck dives and the Gibson Les Paul wants to fall backwards off your leg, arse first. Whenever I play a Telecaster or a Strat, that doesn't happen. So in the end, I always end up getting rid of these Les Pauls, which, you know, it's crazy. Buying guitars is an addiction, it really is. I mean, you know, it's fun to have a new guitar. It's that, you know, I suppose it's a bit like buying shoes or handbags. It's one of those things you just can't seem to stop. For women, I meant there. Or maybe not in this day and age, I don't know. But, you know, traditionally the wives love buying shoes and handbags, and I love buying new guitars and cameras as well. But the point of this video, talking about Gibson, is that it sounds like they are on the cusp of getting themselves sorted out. Over the last couple of days I've heard reports that the CEO, don't ask me to say his name, but his surname begins with a W, I haven't got a clue what it is going to step down, and I'm guessing the remaining directors or shareholders or committee members or whatever, chair people, have come up with a plan to rescue Gibson, get them back on track. What that exactly entails, I don't know, but it sounds positive. I think the number one most positive thing that can happen with Gibson is to get rid of that bloody CEO, because it sounds like he wasn't a lot of good for the company. You know, I'm not going to go into great detail and accusations, but if you go on Glassdoors and read the accounts of people that do work and have worked at Gibson and what they think of the company and why the company's in the state it seems to all head in one direction, and not the shitty group either. The one direction, the management, the upper management, seem to have got it wrong quite a few times. Not responded to customer feedback. Worker, what's the word I'm after? Morale, that's it. Worker morale has been at an all-time low for years. People seem, allegedly, to not enjoy working at Gibson anymore. And having worked in a few jobs where it's been like that, where the management don't seem to care about the morale of a workforce, you're only going to get the absolute bare minimum from a workforce when it's that when it's got that kind of thing going on. So hopefully, because I don't want to see Gibson go under. I don't want to see the end of Gibson, the end of Les Paul, and all the other fine guitars they have in their arsenal. I don't want that to end. No, I don't think anyone wants that to end. They want the whole company to be restructured. They want Gibson's debt problems to be somehow sorted, and for them to get back on track, and for them to get their reputation back, so they're no longer a laughingstock. So when you think of Gibson, you think of a fantastic historical instruments that everyone would be proud to own and love and cherish. When you hand over your money, you get exactly what you wanted, exactly what you were expecting. And one last thing about Gibson, the Gibson Les Paul. I see online a lot of people moaning about the 2019 lineup, and in particular the 2019 Les Paul Standard not being as people would want it to be. So many things keep changing, and sorry about that. and it's too many experimental things going on. It's not like it used to be. It's not, you know, it's not like the old days. It doesn't look like it should. You know, why have they put these things on a Les Paul standard? Well, what you got to understand in this modern era, whether this will change or not, I don't know. But the Les Paul standard is the model where Gibson are likely to try out experimental things, new finishes. You know, those bloody robo tuners, which I hated personally. When I got my Les Paul standard, they came off and I put Grover tuners on. But yeah, that's the guitar in their lineup, the standard, and strangely it's one of the most expensive ones. The standard is the one where you're going to get the experimental finishes and the experimental things, you know, the experimental wiring, all the different wirings and the in-wiring switching that you can do. If you want a Gibson Les Paul to hark back to the old days and be like it was when it was first produced back in the 50s, if that's the kind of Les Paul you want, go for the traditional model. Or, as I've heard recently, also there's one called a classic, but I've had a traditional and I can vouch for the fact that it is absolutely as you would expect it to be. There's no weight relief in a traditional, none whatsoever. You get the old-fashioned type Cluson's tuners, and the finishes are the old-fashioned like sunburst, cherry bursts, or like lemon bursts and that kind of stuff. If that's what you want, if you want an old-fashioned type Les Paul that is like your guitar heroes played back in the day, get a traditional. Have a look at the classic. I don't know what the classic's like, but I can vouch for the fact that the traditional is going to be giving you what you want. If you want an old-fashioned vintage style Gibson Les Paul, go for the traditional. You won't be disappointed. They weigh a ton. The one I had weighed nearly 10 pounds, but if that's what you're after, if that's what you want, you don't want new experimental, you want old traditional, then get a traditional. Anyway, that's all for this time. See you around.